Well, I went to school obviously here, to the college, 1959 to 1965, and then been connected loosely thereafter as an old boy, going to the odd events, of course, that were occurring from time to time. And my only other connection is becoming an inducted legend of the college, and then being on the foundation and subsequently chair of the foundation, and then going on to the school council, and then subsequently becoming chair of the school advisory council. So that's sort of in a nutshell my connection. I've got two grandsons, one in year 12 still at the school, and one left a couple of years ago. I've been in Ballarat, well, pretty much all my life. Born here and came back here after university, and been here ever since, carried on my business here. So I've always been involved in the community. I'm a great believer in commitment to the community in which you work and live, and practice, in my case, law. So I've been on lots of organisations. And so it was a natural fit to, at some point, perhaps put some of that commitment to the community to the commitment to the school. Well, the greatest influence on my life at school was the then principal, Brother Kelty, who was at me to make up my mind as to what I was going to do when I left school. And I had a close connection with Brother Kelty, and he was at me to encourage me, I guess, to go to the university. So, like many families of my generation, I was a first in family to go to the university, and he'd always put the seed in my mind that, well, you need to think about going to the university, and so I credit him with encouraging me to do that. So he was a great influence on me. He was a great man. Very important, because the real purpose of the foundation is to be a vehicle through which we can seek donations, legacies, donations, bequests and so on. And the purpose of raising those funds is obviously not to just put it in the bank, but it is to use those funds to provide for bursaries for students to then be encouraged to attend the school where they might not otherwise have been able to because of their financial circumstance in large measure. So I think the more that the foundation can raise funds, the more funds it's got to then enable them to be used either for short-term needs, as in the Chris Yung. Sometimes it's for someone that might be struggling mentally or their family for a short period of time. Hopefully that's not a long-term thing. But in other cases, the bursaries are able to be given for someone for the whole of their school life, and enable them to attend a school that they might not have otherwise had that opportunity. So I think it's extremely important for the foundation to try to enhance and grow the funds for that purpose. I always think of this as a two-way thing. Obviously our Old Collegians are a strong part of the college community, and do terrific work. They're very active. There's a good large group. They're very involved in a lot of the school events and activities, whilst pledging themselves to the various fundraising efforts that they make, and in taking the transition from boys that leave school to become members of the OCA. But I think it's a two-way thing, in that a lot of people, myself included, look to those roots of your existence, you know, the times when you were at school, the friendships you made, the connections you made. And so I think a lot of the members of particularly the active members of the OCA, I think do it for partly that, if you like to say, selfish reason, that they remain connected. They haven't just sort of been to school, gone, left. And I guess that's true of any organisation. If you're a member of a cricket club or a football club and you're no longer actively involved, I think the ability and the connection to keep coming back, if you like, keeps that part of your life still vibrant and alive. can be proud of the fact that we've educated over 130 years so many boys, thousands and thousands of boys who've had the benefit of an education in a Catholic stroke Christian environment, have been exposed to the ethos of Edmund Rice and to our school's culture and values and history. So I think that's our life work, if you like, as a college, is to do those things, provide that opportunity. I think the fact that discipline was a feature of college life in the 1960s, as it was probably everywhere in schools. So we were strongly disciplined, sometimes perhaps, overly disciplined, you might say. But I think the good aspect of it, it taught us to achieve, to improve, to gain an education, to extend yourself, involved a discipline, as it probably still does today. And I term discipline in a different way to perhaps the Christian Brothers ethos back then was a bit, a stronger form of discipline, if you like. But the fact that you learnt that, yes, you weren't just going to get the results you wanted, you weren't going to extend yourself unless you had the self-discipline to say, well, I want to, get myself to a certain point, then that doesn't just happen. I think you have to discipline yourself. So I think that was something that I took away and used that in my tertiary education and in my work life. I think the other value, I suppose, that I think about is integrity. I think that was drummed into us as young boys, that your word was your bond, so to speak. Truth-telling, if you want to use that term, to me equates to having integrity. To be authentic in terms of what you're on about, if you like. So I think those sort of things came through in a subtle way when you were a schoolboy. I don't think it's sort of up on the blackboard, but it just became obvious, and the commitment and dedication of what was largely a Christian Brothers educators. They were the main teachers, and you saw the way in which they were able to embark upon a teaching career and the supportive way in which they supported all of us, which was remarkable when you think of the time and effort that they all put into it. It was a great lesson in making sure that you try to emulate that. Well, as I've just remarked upon, I mean, it was, first of all, Christian Brothers almost exclusively were our educators, not entirely, but almost so. Look, I was at school 59 to 65. I mean, the world is entirely different to what it was then, obviously. So there's almost nothing that's probably the same. Yes, we were educated in cold classrooms. The boarders, I was a day boy, but boarders didn't enjoy the meals that they get today. The facilities were obviously, quite different. A lot of the buildings we're still using were there then, but certainly not a lot of the ones we've now got. And I think the offering, if you like, was not as extensive. I mean, I didn't do music, but I know that we did have music programs back then. Kids were learning the piano or some other instruments, but it was a pretty, mild compared to what happens today, pretty moderate. The subject offerings were pretty much typical for the era, English literature, geography, French, some of the subjects that the boys are studying today, we wouldn't have heard about. So it was a very different time, very different form of education, but the similarities were there as well, that the discipline, as I talked about earlier, it's here today still in a different form, but it was quite different. And I think your parents had a different expectation as well. I think we almost just bundled off to school, and then we were left to it and to the entrusting of us to the college community. And I don't think parents were as involved, if you like, in education. I don't recall my parents ever taking much interest in how I was going at school. They read the reports, and if they looked okay, that was about it, I think. I think parents are more engaged today than they ever were. Advice to a student today, give yourself the best opportunity to do whatever it is you wish, which means, again, going back to my term of discipline, if you want to achieve, you want to go to the university, you want to study medicine, well, that's not just going to happen. You're going to have to work at it, which means therefore you should be prepared to be open to the opportunities that the school offers to you, to take advantage of those things, to be persistent. Not everything rolls out in a nice, neat and happy fashion forever. So you'll get some setbacks along the way. So therefore to be resilient, to be open to the opportunities the school creates and to take advantage of those opportunities. And very often I think, and I look back myself, I don't know that I truly recognised what I was getting or what was I open to when I was a student. I mean, we're all a bit, we're here and, you know, we roll along, you might say. So I think that if you can put an old head on a young shoulders to say, well, look, just look around you and look at what is on offer, and try not wait till after you've left school to say, oh my God, maybe I could have taken greater advantage. I think that's what I'd be trying to stress. Well, the feedback that I see from current parents and why they value the school and the fact they've sent their boy here is that they believe it to be a safe place. They believe that the school supports their boy in all of his endeavours, and the good and the bad. That message seems to come through pretty loud and clear from the feedback that I see as a council chair. That they see St Pat's as meeting what they wanted for their boy, the boy to be safe, to be challenged, to be supported. I think that's probably what's behind the decision making, and that's done in the context of it being a Catholic school, a Christian school, if you like, which is not necessarily meaning that, you know, that everybody that comes here is Christian or Catholic, but they still appreciate the ethos that that brings. I think all of them, in one sense, that I think our boys in particular, as you know, it's been a relatively common feature these days, particularly of boys' schools, that is there appropriate respect for girls and for women. The critics of all boys' schools will say that it's an opportunity, if you like, that's there for them not to be as thoughtful and respectful as they might be. And I think our boys have demonstrated very strongly the need to constantly think about those issues and to be compassionate, respectful, supportive of and understand their place in the world, and in particular their relationships with women. And I think we've seen some great examples of that. I think at the time of the Royal Commission, our boys demonstrated very obviously the letter that went to the Ballarat Courier at the time, written by the boys, the student leaders at the time, apologising for the wrongs that had occurred to the victims of abuse, was a very clear embracing of those Edmund Rice Foundation type documents. In various ways, being interested is a starting point. Are you interested in the school you attended? There might be some boys out there who didn't have a great experience at the college and they probably don't wish to reconnect, but those who wish to and understand they should be aware of what the school's doing, hopefully be involved in the OCA, at least if that involves membership. They may not want to serve on committees or subcommittees. But be interested in what's going on, take the opportunities to come to events that occur at the school, whether that's going back to watch a football match, whether it's coming to see a musical performance, whether it's just being proud of the school you went to and speaking well of it when you're talking to people, as happens, I'm sure, with current day parents that are considering when their child is leaving primary school, where will I send them? You know, if it's in Ballarat, what are the offerings that the various schools have? I'm sure people would get the opportunity, if they're involved in that sort of discussion, to say, well, I went to St Pat's College, or my boy went to St Pat's College, and this is how I found it, and this is why I would be suggesting to you take these factors into account in thinking about where you want to send your boy, is a very appropriate way to remain engaged with the school, if it's not at a more obvious, you know, daily sort of connection, which wouldn't occur for a lot of people. Because what we were and what we are is important. I mean, we're not a start-up school that hasn't been here for very long. If you're a new school out in one of the new growing areas of Melbourne, for example, which is all new bricks and mortar, and the school starts, you know, this year or last year, they've got to make their own history, establish their own set of values. So we've got a long history that we should value, and take from history the fact that we've been around for a long time. We're going to continue to be around for a long time. I think that's important, as it is in any part of life. I mean, at our peril, I think we sort of try to forget our history or rewrite history, and our history is what it is. Some of it's not great in some of the things that have occurred. In terms of the more positive things that have occurred, however, the thousands of boys who've been through the school, and how many of those have led meaningful and successful lives, and in turn the education they got, they're passing on to their kids. Whether they go here, they might be girls. I've got 5 daughters, none of them had the benefit of going to St Pat's. So that is, I think, why history is important. Yeah. Well, our current principal is on a mission, if you like, to improve our academic performance that hasn't been as good as it should have been in recent times. That's not going to improve overnight, but it starts by having that intent, and then in setting that intent, bringing people on the journey with you. That means largely the teachers and others at the school. It means making sure that the appropriate resources are there, and importantly that we're starting to look at the data that says, well, how do we improve our academic outcomes? We can do it by changes to teaching pedagogy. You know, we've got a plan that is being embarked upon. So I think that's something that augurs well for the future, because we've got a vision and we've got some steps in place to enable us to achieve that vision. Well, hopefully we'll be 230 years old at some future point. Of course, it would be of interest to think, well, what will it look like in those days? Will the buildings still be here? Well, I'm sure some will, probably some won't. They mightn't survive lengthy periods of time. You would like to think that there will still be a reason for and a need for an all-boys school, as there is in other ways, reasons for all-girls schools, and there are reasons for co-ed schools. I think as education policies, procedures, outcomes, I'm sure there'll be significant change, as there has been in recent times. You know, we might see a school where no one brings a pen and paper. You know, there'll be doubtless significant change. But if the ethos is still there, if the same reasons for sending your boy to St Pat's exist, then I'm sure it will continue to do what it's done over 130 years. Not sure that any one thing is important or can be identified. I think perhaps if I described it this way, that we can't stand still. So obviously we can't sort of rest on our laurels of 130 years and say, well, it worked last year and 10 years before that, and it worked 100 years ago. I think we have to be open to the fact that change is inevitable, and therefore we have to make sure that we have that philosophy, I guess. And so, for example, we're building the Performing Arts Centre. That wouldn't have been thought of a long time ago as a necessary thing, but we want to have a different offering for boys, and therefore, given that we were open to that change, to say we need to invest in something as significant as that, recognises that we see the need for that change. I don't think we could ever say, well, we're locked away in this notion that we're just providing the basic education and we're a bit of a sporty sort of school and that's good enough. The fact that we're prepared to embrace change, so it's not really an answer to your question, but it's just saying that I think what's important in anything, whether it's school, work, home, family, is a recognition that you've got to be open to changes that will inevitably occur. You know, in bringing up my children, and the challenges they had and the successes they've had are different for my grandchildren. And so I think if you want to lock yourself away and think you've got it all covered, we don't need to rewrite the whole protocol, so to speak, well, we'd be making a mistake. So I think as long as we're always open to change, and I'm pretty sure we are. I suppose the whole faith journey, if you like, is quite different. When I was here, I would imagine, not that I can recall the statistics of the time, but I think probably most of the boys that were here were Catholic, coming from Catholic families, and their families were going to Mass on a Sunday, and we were going to Mass on a Sunday, and we were going to Mass at the chapel here. I think that the church, as it is, the hierarchical church, if you separate the church from the college, I think our faith is not as cataclysmic, if you like. That's not the right word, but you know, the catechism we studied and the fact that it was all, you know, heaven and hell and all sorts of things in between. I think that the faith now is more the ethos that we're being educated and our boys are being educated to be compassionate people, to be alive to what's going on in the world. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you are faithless if you don't happen to go to the organised church events, like going to Mass on a Sunday. But if you've got those same principles embedded in you, then that's what's important. And we've got a lot of boys here who are non-Catholic, so we're not about evangelising them and sort of ensuring that they sort of change their current faith, if they've got one, to the Catholic faith. We're just saying simply adopt those principles of what are behind our faith, not the external things that say, well, how many boys go to Mass every Sunday? But you hope that the principles behind our faith are embraced every day. Well, I'd liken it to, I'm heavily involved in sport. I have been myself, and I'm with my family and my grandkids now. It would be to translate and say to the boy...
Sorry, Peter, just before you get into it, can I get you to talk to them in that voice more than me?
Yeah.
I'm not here.
No.
So there's going to be 1,500 boys sitting in there, and they're going to hear from you.
So ask me the question again.
Why would you tell them to take these opportunities whilst they're in front of them at SPC?
Well, boys, when faced with that question of why wouldn't you want to take advantage of those things, my simple answer would be, well, why wouldn't you? What's to be lost by not doing it? But there's an awful lot to be gained by taking up those opportunities. So if you want to just take for granted what's there, not push yourself, not seek to improve yourself, not to achieve the best that you can achieve, then that would seem to be a waste of your time and energy. So I'd simply say, why wouldn't you take advantage of the opportunities that are there?